This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Sefer Ezra, Perek Dalet. We're talking about Klal Yisrael returned in the times of Bayis Sheni, and we learned how in the 7th month, the first day of the month, they began restoring the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, even though they did not have a foundation yet of the Mikdash, but nevertheless, they began bringing karbanos. They brought the karban tamid, they brought the karbanos of Sukkos, they brought the Shivim Parim, they brought the 98 Kvasim, and so forth. And last time we learned about the reaction of the people who had witnessed the first Beis HaMikdash. They were very demoralized by the lack of Kedusha of the second Beis HaMikdash. The second Beis HaMikdash was lacking 5 things the first Beis HaMikdash had, and overall it did not have the same majesty, and they were very disappointed by that. Okay, but the Jews persevere, they push on, and they try to complete the construction of the Bayis Sheni. But the problem is, Vayishma'u tzara Yehuda v'Binyamin, the adversaries of Yehuda and Binyamin heard,
what class is it?
Ki b'nei hagoyla boinim heichal l'Hashem Elokei Yisrael, that the children of the exile were building the temple for God, the God of Israel. Now, who exactly are these adversaries? So Rashi points out these are the goyim. That's Sancherev. By the way, what's the Sancherev's name in Hebrew? In English?
Sancherev.
Sancherev in English. What was his name? Sancherev had a very beautiful name. Okay, I don't remember either. A snapper. What? No. He had a snapper. Okay, a snapper was Sancherev. Now Sancherev, we know Bas Sancherev Bilbal Kala Umais. He mixed up all the different nationalities, and he situated people from one end of the world to the other, and he took the Kutim from Kuta, and he put them in the Shomron. And that's how they became known as the Samaritans. Okay? Now we have an expression, right? A good Samaritan. The Samaritans were bad. Right? And eventually their conversion was what the Gemara calls Gerei Arayos. They were converted because they were afraid of lions. And the Gemara discusses the validity of their conversion. But anyway, they did not like the fact that the Jewish people were building the Beis HaMikdash, and they figured the only way to put a halt to it would be by joining their efforts and then getting on the in of the decision making and then putting an end to the construction. Fine. So what did they do? Vayigishu el Zerubbabel, they come to Zerubbabel, who we've identified as Nehemiah, the Al Rashi Havais, and to the heads of the families, Vayomru lahem, and they said to Zerubbabel and the Rashi Havais, Nivnei imachem, we'll build with you. Ki kachem, because just like you, Nidroi shleilokechem, we will seek out your God. V'lo yanachnu zoivchem, and we don't sacrifice. What does that mean? And we don't sacrifice? It's a kri ksiv over here. It's ksiv v'lo with an aleph. It's kri v'lo with a vav. So what are they trying to tell? What are they trying to tell Zerubbabel? So v'lo yanachnu zoivchem. We sacrifice to Him, to God. But v'loi with an aleph, we don't sacrifice to anybody else. Mimei Esar Chadon, from the days of Esar Chadon, Melech Ashur, the king of Ashur, Hamala Oisanu Pai, that brought us up here. Rabbi say, who is Esar Chadon? Who is this guy, Esar Chadon? Esar Chadon is the son of Sancherev. And he continued the dispersion of the world population. So Esar Chadon, who took over for Sancherev, says these Samaritans, since the days of Esar Chadon, we have not been offering to anybody but your God. Now, was that true? Take a look at Rashi.
Esar Chadon is the this Melech Ashur, right?
He took over for Sancherev. He was Sancherev's son.
Was more than just Melech Ashur. He had a much wider.
His base was in Ashur, but he he was Bilbal Kala Umay, so he had a world power. He did have a vast empire, and his son took over for him. And what they take a look at Rashi. B'noi Shel Sanchev. What was the purpose of? Why did he do that? It gave a certain stability to his kingdom. If no nation was able to occupy their home country, it weakened all the nations of the world. Okay, so take a look at Rashi. B'noi Shel Sanchev, the son of Sanchev, Shel Acher Shel Sanchev Hashivam Sham. After Sanchev positioned the Kutim in Shomron, Hargu Adar Melech the Sharatzar Banav. Adar Melech and Sharatzar, his sons, killed him. And who took over? Vayimloich Asar Chadon Beno Tachtav Shenemar Vayihu Mishtacha Ve'abeis Nasroch Elokov. He was prostrating himself in the house of Beis Nasroch, and Adar Melech and Sharatzar killed him, and Asar Chadon took over. Now, if you look in the Malbim,
but he was also one of the sons, right?
Yeah.
So two of the sons killed him, but one of the ones that killed,
they didn't take over.
Another one took over.
Yeah, they didn't like the dad. Now look at the Malbim. V'lo yanachnu zoivchem. The Kutim served God b'shituf. Now, how does the Malbim know this? I believe there's a pasuk in Malachim that says that Hashem they feared, and their gods they worshipped. Now they were hoping, these Kutim, these Shomronim were hoping, that they would persuade Klal Yisrael also to worship Hashem b'shituf. Right? What's shituf? Shituf is when you believe in God and something else. Right? Christianity is considered a form of shituf, where they believe in a God, but another form that God takes on. So this is the type of worship that the Kutim had, and they wanted to influence Klal Yisrael in this way. V'alkein amru, kachem, like you, nidroi shalakechem. Because they called the God of the Jews the supreme God, and they said, we serve Him. We consider Him Kel Elyon, the God over all gods. And we're familiar that there's a difference between the relationship of Klal Yisrael with God and the relationship of all the other Ummei Sa'ilam. Klal Yisrael serves God directly, and God gives us divine providence directly. There's no intermediaries. There are no angels between us and God. God deals with us directly, we'll deal with the Rebbeinu Shalom directly. But God set up for all the Ummei Sa'ilam a ministering angel. Now, does this ministering angel have inherent independent kayach? No. But he just serves as the intermediary between God and the nation. So God bestows bounty to the Ummei Sa'ilam, but through the medium of the ministering angel. Now, the Ummei Sa'ilam mistakenly thought that their ministering angels had independent power, and they started to worship them aside from God. Okay, so these Kutim wanted to persuade Klal Yisrael to worship our God in this way. So they said, Vayomer lahem Zerubbabel v'Yeshua ushar Rashi Avos Yisrael. Zerubbabel, Yeshua, and the rest of the heads of the family said to Klal Yisrael, Loi lochem v'lanu livnois bayis Elokeinu. It is not for us and for you to build a house for our God. In other words, this is not a job for the two of us. Ki anachnu yachad, we all together, ourselves, nivna l'Hashem l'kei Yisrael, kasher tzivanu hamelech Koresh melech Paras. Like the king Koresh commanded and gave us permission, and Koresh was the king of Paras. Now, very important to know that are we permitted to take donations from the Goyim for the building of the Beis HaMikdash?
Chapter 4. Chapter 4.
That was the problem. Shlomo. Shlomo Melech took donation.
Are you allowed to take donations from the Goyim for the building of the Mikdash? The answer is a big N and a big O. No.
Well, that was the mistake that Shlomo Melech did.
How do you know he took donations?
He took from Hiram Melech.
No, he didn't
Isn't there a
take.
queen that
They helped build.
Was there a queen that gave a lot of money to the...
They helped build, but they didn't contribute financially to the construction of the Beis HaMikdash. And in fact, the Gemara in Erchin, on Daf Hey Amud Beis, says the following. says,
So what is the Torah between in Parshas Teruma, Vayishal, Mechuram, Ben Shlomo, Nichmer, Bris Shaneim?
they made a bris and they helped construct, but they did not accept donations.
I mean, but we paid them for it.
But the work was done by Goyim.
No, not the work. They did supplies. We bought supplies from them.
So here's the thing. The halacha is you cannot accept donations from Goyim to build the Beis HaMikdash.
What about for operating expenses?
What about for operating expenses? Now, Rabbi said, what's the source you not accept donations from Goyim for the building of the Beis HaMikdash? Says the Gemara in Erchan on Ham and Beis, the pasuk we just read. The pasuk that says, Loi lachem v'lanu livnais es Beis Elokeinu. It's we can't do it together. Now, there's a machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Huda. Does this apply only for the building, or does it apply even for upkeep? Okay? Rabbi Huda is of the opinion that the Isser of accepting donations from Goyim is only to build the Beis HaMikdash. But once the Beis HaMikdash is already built, and you need money for upkeep, you're allowed to take money for upkeep. Now, what's the difference? In other words, to pay money for your electricity bill. Or, let's say you need Venetian blinds. Right? So once the bill, maybe Venetian blinds is part of building it. But, so what's the difference between building it and upkeep? So Rashi says the difference is, why didn't Zerubbabel and Yeshua accept donations from these kutim? Because they were afraid exactly what this entailed. That if they would take money, they would get involved and they would put a halt, they would put a stop on the construction. You always have to suspect that they have an ulterior motive. So maybe the reason why you can't take money for the building is we're afraid they're going to interfere with the building. But once the building is already up and it's functioning, and now it's just a matter of when are you going to give the bill, pay the bill to Con Ed. So the guy wants to give you money, gesundheit, la'olam tikach. Take the money.
I think there's maybe a little different.
That's what Rashi learns. Yeah?
If you give money to the building,
yeah,
you have something in perpetuity. You have this mashmaz that stays there forever and ever and ever. You can claim, I have a part in the Beis HaMikdash. That we don't want. But when you give money just for operating expenses, it comes and it goes. There's no mashmaz, no continuous mushes.
Very good. So Tosfos says, and Erech and Avav, that another reason why, another svara for Rabbi Huda, that what's the reason why you're not allowed to take donations in the first place? Like Rabbi Huda said, because if they're going to, if there's going to be a plaque on the wall that said Yankel Beryl donated this and Shmuel donated this and Frank and Tony donated that, then 10 years later Frank and Tony are saying, you know what? We built this Beis HaMikdash. Now we're going to use this. We're going to have a movie theater in the Beis HaMikdash. Well, who are you? What say do you have? What do you mean? We built it. So someone who built something, he always has a deya. So we don't want to give the Goyim a deya in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay.
Wasn't Nicanor a non-Jew?
Was Nicanor a non-Jew?
Yeah.
Well, Nicanor was a Roman general.
Yeah, but didn't we pay for the gates?
But there were two Nicanors.
We paid for them.
One was a Jew and one was a guy. The doors.
I thought it was a gift. I don't know.
Now the Gemara does say that a davar masuyam, if they want to donate a specific item, that you could accept from them. Because the Gemara says, the kalya oirev, the Gemara in Erchan says, the kalya oirev,
But doesn't that we conflict with what Tosfos says?
The spikes that they had?
the Gemara says, davar masuyam, that you can never accept from them. That you can never accept from them.
Right.
So
that's in concert with what Tosfos says for the same kind of reason.
They'll run your life. They give
now
you money, they'll run your
that's
life.
right. That's the story of the world. Rabbi say, so Tosfos wants to know, if you can't accept help from Goyim to build the Beis HaMikdash, I mean, that flies in the face of the whole Binyan Bayis Sheni. The Binyan Bayis Sheni, Koresh commissioned the whole Binyan. Koresh was in charge of the whole building. How did we allow him to do that? The answer is Gzeres HaKosav. The Navi told us that Koyamar Hashem l'Mashichai Koresh. So even though technically this is not how we do it, but over here it was The Navi told us it was a Hayrasha. Okay. So Rabbi, so let's forge ahead. So sure enough, Vayhi Am Haaretz Merapim Yidei Am Yehuda. The people of the land caused a slackening to the people of Yehuda, Umevalem Oisam, and they confounded them, live nice to build. Who are the Am Haaretz? These are the Goyim, the Tzara Yehuda. They were Merapim, says Rashi, Levatlam, from building it. Not only that, they hired professional antagonists, professional interferers. Right? Imagine that. You ask a guy, "What are you doing? I'm in school. What are you going to school for?" I'm studying the art of disruptor. I'm learning the art, majoring in disruption. Right? V'soichrim aleim yayatzim. They would hire advisors, lahafer atzasam, to cancel out their plans. Kol yemei Koresh melech Paras. All the days of Koresh, the king of Persia. V'ad Malchus Daryavesh, until the kingdom of Daryavesh, Melech Paras, until the king of Paras. Now, what is going on over here? Who are these people? Koresh, Daryavesh. What?
Didn't Koresh know this? Why didn't he put a stop to it? They must have paid him off.
So let's get the timeline. The first king of Bavel was Nebuchadnezzar. After Nebuchadnezzar came Evil Meradach. After Evil Meradach came Belshazzar. After Belshazzar came Daryavesh the first, Darius the Mede. He was a Mede. Okay. Then after Darius the Mede came Koresh, that we're learning about here. After Koresh, king of Paras, came a man by the name of Achashverosh. After Achashverosh came a man by the name of Daryavesh the Persian. So it's saying over here, from the days of Koresh until Daryavesh the Persian. That means Koresh, Achashverosh, Daryavesh the Persian. The Beis Hamikdash was put to a halt by the Tzarei Yehuda uBinyamin. Now, let us see. So let's see Rashi. Kol Yimei Malchus Koresh, the kingdom of Koresh, Malchus Achashverosh, Asher Malach Achar Koresh, Ad Shna Shtayim LeDaryavesh, till Daryavesh' second year. Now, who is Daryavesh the Persian? Who is his mommy? Esther. Now, what's very confusing is that Koresh had another name. You know what his other name was? Daryavesh, of course. Right? So you had Daryavesh the Mede. You had Daryavesh the Mede. You had Koresh the Persian, who's also called Daryavesh, and then you had Daryavesh the Persian. Now it's very confusing because you have in Gemaras it talks about Daryavesh. You don't know who it's talking about. What? Yeah. Well, so I remember I have an acronym. My acronym is Nabad Kaad. Nabad, Nebuchadnezzar, Ever Meradach, Belshazzar, Daryavesh, Nabad. And Kaad is Koresh, Achashverosh, Daryavesh. It's very simple, right?
Now when you say Koresh is also Daryavesh.
Yeah, fine. So that's what's going on over here. They put a halt all the days of Koresh, Achashverosh.
Did they do any construction at all in the times of Koresh? The first Koresh.
Well,
it doesn't seem that way from the time of Achashverosh that there was
much going on. There was something, but apparently very little. We don't have clear exactly what they did do, what they didn't do. They probably did not get too far. Now, Pasuk Vav, we're sort of going back to Achashverosh, and now Achashverosh was smack in between Koresh and Daryavesh, right? So v'malchus Achashverosh, v'tchilas malchusai, kasvu sitna. They wrote accusations al Yoshvei Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. Now, what does this mean in the beginning of his reign? Well, we know in the third year of his reign, he's already celebrating the 70 years. But in the very beginning of his reign, they wrote a sitna. Who wrote it?
What's a sitna?
Sitna, an accusation. Or in English, it's translated as what? A calumny.
An allegation.
But we have no idea what that means.
They wrote
an accusation. They wrote a formal...
bloodsucker or whatever.
Yeah, they wrote a formal accusation of, So what does it say? It says Rashi, "Uv'machas Achashverosh shemalach achar koresh hu Achashverosh shalak achester, kasu sidna shalai livnos beis hamikdash al Yoshua Yehuda B'Yishalayim lehal shinam." To badmouth them, lekantam shalai yivnu habayis. Now we have a tradition based on the Yalkut Shemaini that who are the authors of this official accusation against the Beis Hamikdash? They were none other than the sons of Haman. And in fact, if you look in Rashi, in the beginning of Megillas Esther, you have a... Anyone with Rashi? Okay,
On top of that Gemara over there. Go to your right.
Rashi brings down this pasuk.
It's a ticket.
Go up.
Okay, so it's okay.
Top of
Rashi brings down this idea that the sons of Haman were the writers of this accusation against the Beis Hamikdash. Where is it? At the end of Shemais, right?
They were so powerful early on in the reign of Achashverosh that Haman and Haman I would end with the sons.
Rashi Masechta Megillah. Where are the Megillas? There's a special shelf, right? What?
Is it on your
Oh. Okay, Rabbi say, we will hold it over here.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.